Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All-In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and as always, I'm joined by my friends, my colleagues, my co-hosts, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair. So happy to have you guys here again, and we get to talk League and all the LCS action. So we'll jump right into it, but before that, let me just get a brief update. What have you guys been up to? How your game's been going? How you liking? I know you guys did a patch notes rundown last episode. What are you thinking of your game so far? Anything exciting, or is anything like depressing you and super OP right now because you have to play against it? What's going on?
So ASOL was pretty fun. We got to play it on my team. I didn't get to play myself, but I've tried them out in practice. Very fun concept. Probably unbalanceable, but extremely funny. Like the big ult is just so ridiculous. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever, and I love it. Yeah. I think I'll get sick of it once it starts destroying games for a while, but I think that's fun. Besides that, I think that they did a good job nerfing bruisers in the sense of like making them useless, but they did the thing that we expected where it's like, now I just feel terrible because DD is painful to build. Like all this crap that we were calling out before it came true. And like, I'm happy that it came true, but I'm not happy that I have to play it. So yeah, for now it's over nerfed, which is, I guess, fine, but I do wish that they were a little smarter about it.
Nice.
Games are pretty good. Been playing a lot of Tristana, Quick Blade second, so kind of abusing that while it's really good. So I actually think Quick Blades is kind of better than IE in a lot of situations. So
on a lot of characters,
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. Percentage-wise, though, I saw some dude do some analysis on Reddit and basically say like Quick Blades versus IE second has almost the same win rate on like a dozen different ADCs. So it's kind of weird how that would turn out. But I guess you get your second item and you just do a lot of damage and same win rate, right? But very different play style.
Also seems fun though with the Quick Blades.
Quick Blades is just like more fun, I think, for the most part. I mean, when I play GP, you're supposed to go Quick Blades, right? Because you get the cooldown reduction, you get more barrels. But I'm so bad at GP that I'd rather just get IE. So if I do just hit that one barrel combo, they die.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
Hitting multiple barrel combos.
I mean, IE is always full power, right? While Quick Blades, like some people just don't look at their ability cooldowns or don't understand when it's up. So they like sit there, they get it cooldown early, and they're like, "Oh, it's up," like 2 seconds after it came off cooldown. So I feel like as people get used to using Quick Blades and abusing them, I think they'll probably pull ahead a little bit. But I don't know.
Yeah, I even built it on Senna. I know, like it's I just wanted to try it, with a bunch of attack speed.
Work?
And
none of your abilities really benefit from.
It's not that great. It's fun because your Q is up, especially if you build attack speed, and I forget what else. It's okay. It's not the best. I'm not gonna lie, but it's fun. I want to build it on almost everything, so I just wanted to do it. Yeah.
Is there any like unique interaction? Because I know IE is like reduced on Senna. I guess Quick Blade is just normal, huh?
Yeah, there's no kind of like restraints or anything like that. So it's fun. It does feel like it takes a while. And plus I've been playing it support Senna, not AD Senna, so I'm sure that's not even optimal either. Again, I'm just doing it for the lulz. That's why I'm also playing Annie a bunch and doing it for the lulz and support role, just because it's fun. It's fun to do that. I haven't been doing. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So did Aurelion Sol. Aurelion Sol dropped like 4%. Kind of sad, but that's okay.
Yeah. So lots of fun. Always fun to experiment. But Alistair, you'd be happy. I didn't do it in ranked, so don't worry about it. I did it in norms. Didn't troll any ADC games. But let's go to the LCS. So some good matchups. We actually had 4 pretty good matchups this week, and we're just gonna dive right into it. The first matchup I kind of wanted to hit first is. I kind of want to talk about it first because there was such a nice interaction between 2 of the players. And if you've been on YouTube and Reddit, you kind of know who I'm talking about. It's Doublelift and Prince, kind of like the old guard, the new guard. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up on YouTube. There's this interaction of Prince and Doublelift meeting and signing jerseys and exchanging it. But Prince basically was just fanboying Doublelift like crazy and saying like he was his like inspiration and hero. And it's almost weird to think about. And you could tell by Doublelift's reaction, he's kind of like, how do I react to this? Because he's still a young person himself. I mean, older than a lot of the players now. But the fact that we've had this game for so long that there are players now coming into the league that look up to people like Doublelift and are like, you're the reason I'm playing. You're like, this whole legend that I'm used to looking up to, and now I'm playing against you. And it was even cool to see Doublelift kind of saying, you're the best. Like I'm kind of like the old guard now, and like you're the best. So it is neat to actually see that in our esport, because we see that sometimes in other sports, but to see it happen here is pretty cool. So I kind of want to dive into the FlyQuest 100 Thieves matchup first, but I'll just lead with that. Whatever you want to talk about as far as the matchup, or you could talk about that interaction too. But let's talk about FlyQuest 100 Thieves.
Yeah. So Prince in the game like 11-1. I think Winsome won him that lane. Like obviously, I think most people won't argue with that. It's actually kind of crazy. Like Winsome just kind of gapped Busio multiple times. He also landed some key hooks on Double later on. I think Double individually played quite well. Still, despite him going 0-4, he didn't carry obviously, but it's very hard for in the position they were in. Busio had a bad game.
Blame Buzio, baby.
I wouldn't blame him per se, but yeah, he didn't play well. And then Tenacity, I was watching the game with Mitchell live. I did not think he would do anything. I was like, I mean, yeah, it's Fiora. It's a good pick, but Tenacity is the worst player on average on this team. And he almost carried. Like, he did a good job. I think Prince played very well. This is one of the games where he later on actually did, like, proactively go in. He didn't just clean up fights and, like, collect his paycheck. So I think he did very well. And then I think Spica was the one who got them ahead, though, like the team. So again, I think Spica and Winsome deserve the credit.
Yeah, I mean, how Tenacity did against Impact was pretty eye-opening to me. I mean, it's pretty rare people solo kill Impact in the first place, let alone make him like or beat him that hard in lane. I mean, at the end of the game, he's up 60 CS, I think.
Yeah.
And that's pretty impressive because that's not something we see a lot. So other than that, I mean, Busio definitely did not do great, but I do want to touch on Prince. Like he's practically going in, but he's always catching Busio after he engages and just gets away with it somehow every time. It's kind of insane to me.
Yeah. Did you guys check out Doublelift's video that he did? The post-match video that he always does after LCS every week.
I missed it. No, I didn't see it this time.
So actually, some interesting insight from him is he doesn't think Busio was the problem. It was actually his own mistakes. So he talks about how Busio is basically covering Doublelift and blocking the Nautilus hook, and then Busio ends up dying. But it's because of Doublelift's positioning that's kind of suspect. And he says that he should be positioning like closer to the bottom of the lane instead of the top, so that even if he does get hooked, Kai'Sa's not in a position to get a full Q into like free autos and get a like a W without a minion in the way. So I do think that Busio is gonna take a lot of flack because he's the one getting hit by the hook and dying. But it's nice of Doublelift to make that video and say, hey, it's actually probably more my fault, or it's a combined effort fault, not just his fault. So I completely agree with that, especially if he's the one saying it. So just a little flame off of Buzio's side. But I mean, for Winsome, right? Like hitting the hooks, I think in lane, like if you hit hooks in lane, you get kills, and you Prince is your ADC. Like, aren't you just doing like the best job ever? So go Winsome. That's great for him. I think he had a pretty good game against EG too. So this guy's like a half rookie, right? Half green, very green player, right? And to see him still do well, and he bounced back from kind of falling apart last year is pretty interesting. And this is like a very young rookie player that we can maybe look forward to developing on FlyQuest. So go Winsome. I hope he keeps doing well. And I don't know if Ayla, what's gonna happen there? Is Ayla gonna come back like he's doing damn well?
I asked you guys this question last time, and you guys resoundingly said, well, I think it was just Kevin and Mitchell on that episode, but I said at this point, if Ayla comes back, do you put him in? And it was a resounding yes. But I liked Mitchell that you kind of sound like you may have a little 50-50 now, just the fact that Winsome has been playing pretty well. I mean, he's on a really good team, but yeah, I mean, go ahead and, that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I think, I was saying he can only play enchanters because that's what he did last year, and that's what he's mostly doing this year. But he played Nautilus. I mean, it's not like the hardest champion, but if he's not afraid to bust it out, and you can land hooks, I guess that's good enough, right? Yeah, maybe you just keep Winsome. I mean, honestly, you just ask the team, right? Ask Prince, like, who do you want to play with? He's probably gonna say, I'm gonna keep playing with Winsome. They're winning. They're 6-0. They're stomping every lane. Doesn't feel like any bot lane in the entire LCS can put any pressure onto Prince at all. Like he just gets away for free at the laning phase, doesn't get ganked, doesn't ever die in lane. So um, it's like why break the success?
Yeah.
But I mean that's gonna lead into like some other topics of conversation I have. But I've been
Yeah.
talking for a bit, so I don't feel like you guys want to
Yeah,
talk about
no,
it a
I
little
mean
bit
let's dig more into the game itself. I mean, I know you mentioned I guess everyone's going to look at the Buzio getting caught because that was first blood, but when all said and done, you'd rather him die than Doublelift because there's all that XP down there. And yeah, so it is kind of unfortunate, but I'm glad that Doublelift, I agree with you. I'm glad he said something to kind of take some of the flack. Let's talk a little bit about the draft. So they target banned and by they I mean FlyQuest pretty much banned 3 ADCs first round, kind of trying to put Doublelift in some kind of corner, and they ended up picking Zyra Khan. So talk a little bit about your thoughts on the draft, that pick, just in general, because again, I don't know if that threw 100 Thieves off, the fact that they did. I mean, good for them for banning Zeri because Doublelift was just going amok with that champion, but kind of forcing him in this corner. What are your thoughts on the draft?
I thought that was a fine draft by 100 Thieves. Like, if you think about it in concept, right? There's Bjergsen on Talia, and there are 4 melees with dashes on the other team. Like, it's pretty rough. And if you're playing Zyra Khan, like in theory, he should be able to keep himself safe. There was like a 3-man play where they were coming or 3-angle flank from FlyQuest in mid lane, bot mid brush, and they were trying to go onto him. And 100 Thieves survived for a long time. They played really well into it because their draft was good into that. I will say that I don't think Closer should have gone Demonic first. I think he should have gone Radiant first into Demonic if he really wanted a Demonic. Because speaking of what Radiant, Warmog, Redemption, and dude, like all those fights where Tenacity was trying to pop off, like they were just barely surviving or like just healing infinite. So I think that build is broken, especially against a situation where you want to reset. And I think the build's one. I think the draft was actually slightly better for 100 Thieves because it's 4 melees into Fiora and Zyra Khan and Talia, and then you have the peel from Maokai. Like there shouldn't be a world where early mid you should be losing, but Prince got so far ahead it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Zaya's top tier right now, in my opinion. I think she's extremely strong. Though actually not a huge fan of the Talia, just because Talia kind of sucks into tanks. So like she's good for the kite back aspect, but her damage is really low. Which I mean, I guess you have Fiora Zaya, so you don't necessarily need the damage. But I don't know. I definitely think 100 Thieves had the better draft, but they just got outclassed as players for the most part.
I think I kind of disagree on the draft part. I mean, their draft was solid, just like conceptually, but I think the whole conceptual part of like the kite back sort of style isn't very good in this meta because if like the enemy team is going ahead, forward and in, and they're just ahead in gold, I think you can just kind of run over them, especially when you have
Yeah.
items like Radiant Virtue and like it doesn't seem like kite back comps are very good right now. It's not to say they're bad, but it's like I think if you're playing against a team who's clearly better than you and you give them just a bunch of tools and options to go into you, it's really hard to play. Like I think it's much harder to play the kite back style than play Silas and just barf all
Mm-hmm.
your buttons and go in, or Sejuani and just barf all your buttons and go in.
I like that
Uh,
term.
so I mean, it's just tougher to pull off a kite back comp. Also, I think the blind recon was kind of an issue too because Nautilus and Leona are the two best melee supports, and they're also the most popular, and they're also like Rakan's hardest counters. And you can tell it was pretty hard for Buzio to actually do stuff. Like if he ever goes in, it's guaranteed he's dead because like he was just getting Nautilus comboed and um I don't know. It felt like it was hard. Like Rakan has not been buffed yet, so his stats were super low. I feel like, and Nautilus is just better. So maybe just Zaya and Nautilus would have been better than Zaya Rakan. But they early rotationed it. So I also think the first pick Maokai is kind of a bait. I think first pick Sejuani is just better. Maybe it's I don't know why every team in every region across the world prioritizes Maokai over Sejuani, but it never feels like it's actually that good. I always feel like Sejuani is just better. Both these champions are really stupid and broken, and they should both be rushing Radiant Virtue, but it just feels like Sejuani being able to do like a lot of non-committal engages is just better than Maokai. So some interesting things about the draft there that I feel like, it's not going to matter next patch, right? Because Radiant Virtue is going to be heavily nerfed, but 100% agree with Kevin on the Radiant Virtue Rush. Demonic Embrace was just completely worthless on the Maokai. He was just dying every fight. Last thing I have to say is on Tenacity. This is a trend both in this game and this game before against Team Liquid was he does pretty well in lane, right? He gets the solo kill in a winning matchup. That's great against the Cassante, against Impact. But his TPs and his timings and just being involved were really late. So you saw Double review it and say it twice. Basically, says on stream his top laner is trolling by not TPing. He's like says multiple times like, "Where's my top laner? What is he doing? Why is he just off in fairyland and top lane brain?" So 100 Thieves has a lot to work on. I also think FlyQuest, they kind of trolled a couple times actually to make this game a lot closer than it had to be. Like Tenacity almost getting like a reverse penta when when Prince was going for his own penta. That was like, you guys could lose the game off of that. Like they like Tenacity got 4 kills, they got a Baron, they got a bunch of objective bounties, right? The only reason why they kind of just FlyQuest is able to win still is because I don't know, like Closer just ran it down and then they died. But there's a lot of cases where FlyQuest did not play perfectly and they could have thrown this game. So
well, I mean, I think that's always going to be the case, though. No matter how good the team is, you're rarely going to see perfect play. And the thing is with FlyQuest, they just look so freaking good, even when the play isn't 100% perfect. I do want to piggyback off. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, FlyQuest is good, but like you can tell, like they're not that good when you look at other regions. Like they're just diffing these other teams by a long shot. But like FlyQuest makes so many random ass mistakes that like I don't know, they're not ineffable. Other teams can definitely beat them. I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
For sure.
Kind of there's a talk that like FlyQuest is on another level, and it's like they are, but God, they make so many mistakes.
Yeah, but okay. Mitchell, we're talking about the LCS here, though. For LCS, they are on another level. Yeah, I think when you expand the pool of teams to international, 100%, they're gonna be not the best. But I mean, in this context of this, like they're freaking on another level. It's hard to deny otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's just go ahead and say it. Let's just say it. FlyQuest wins world.
Well,
let's just go ahead.
That exaggeration.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It's just like, dude, T1 loses to like Fred Breon in the best of one. Like, it's not like these other teams are inassailable. Like JDG loses random to best of one. Like in best of one, you just sometimes lose to bad teams because you can't always be playing at 100%.
Right.
So I don't know.
But anyways, I mean, I just wanted to I was going to piggyback off what you were saying, though, because I do like the point that you made, because I agree with you as far as draft, Mitchell, that I mean, look at all the weapons that FlyQuest has to go forward. Cassante, Sejuani, Silas, Kai'Sa. I mean, Nautilus, every single one of them can go forward, can go in, has their own go button, where you really have to have a lot of tools and proper, like, really good coordination if you're peeling back, because if you miss an engage or you mess up, there's still a lot of other ways to still engage if you're FlyQuest. And so I think you're right in a sense that is probably the better way to go if you're going to pick a style. And I think they did that pretty well. And just to really kind of look into some of the details of the game, if you just, like, I like to look at Oracle's Elixir just to get an idea of how close they are, whatever. And in the early game, it did look like, obviously, Tenacity had that big lead up top, but Vikla and Prince had a sizable lead in the mid and bot lane, which kind of evened out and even slightly ahead. And when you look at the overall win, there's a rating called the GSPD, which is basically the gold spent percentage difference by the end. Kind of gives just an idea of how far or how big that win was. And it was about 5%, which is pretty good, but it's not crazy big. So what that tells me is that, yeah, they won, and you said there were mistakes, but it wasn't like a super huge stomp. And, if you're a 100 Thieves fan, then maybe that's something you could take away. They made some mistakes, obviously, but it's not a total loss if they play again. But before we wrap that game up, is there anything final that you wanted to say about it? Are we good on that?
I guess just, I mean, it felt like Tenacity was like super fed and doing really well, and it did seem like this team just needs to work on incorporating Tenacity into like the overall game plan of like them. Like when your Fiora is that fed and like you're actually able to get the enemy team so low, I don't know, it does feel like how do you like? They just need to be able to set up a team fight where it's good for Tenacity, because he was always coming in super late and like just never actually able to get enough done. So I hope 100 Thieves works on that, because hey, it was pretty hype, you know? Like
Yeah.
this is a complete rookie actually taking it to town against Impact, and you know, when I look at these games, I'm looking at mostly Tenacity, Buzio, and Winsome are rookies to see how well they do.
Right.
And then last point, I guess, is with Bjergsen's Talia. I think he had some good like flicks and stuff and get some good ease, but this is also a problem I saw in the previous game against Team Liquid, is he never ulties to side lanes. They have
Yeah.
Talia, they have a split push advantage, and they never actually play side lanes. They don't ever collapse and play, you know, to gank. So Talia, I mean, if you're gonna pick Talia and you're not gonna get ahead, you're not gonna gank. It doesn't matter how good your peel back is and how good your E is against all these melees. You need to be at a gold advantage to play Talia correctly, and you need to, you know, roam and stuff. So yeah, a lot of things to think about for 100 Thieves. But hey, they had a pretty good showing against FlyQuest, and
Yeah.
they're a very new team, so pretty
Yeah.
cool stuff.
Yeah, and we'll get to talk about them a little bit more because they had another really good match. But I want to continue on this FlyQuest train, and us mentioning and talking about what level they are, and at least on the LCS, is because they did have a pretty, I guess, quote unquote, tough schedule this week, because so they played 100 Thieves, but their first matchup was against EG, which is another top team, and they ended up winning that one as well. So I want to transition into that game. What are your thoughts about that matchup, that game overall? What were your impressions after watching that one?
My impressions after watching that one is that I continue to not really understand what they can do with Sunday. Like, I get that. I'm actually happy they put him on something more carry oriented. He went Jace in that game against Sion, but like, despite the minor CS lead, like, it just didn't feel like there was any pressure coming from that. I don't think this is a very inspired meta after watching enough games now. I don't think he's very like being enabled by the characters that are here in the meta. So I'm curious when the jungle meta, if it does shift, if it'd be any good. And then I'm continuing to be impressed that Speak is the only person playing a Mumu, and he just continues to win on that thing. So those were my quick takeaways.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like, inspired JoJo, something's off from last year. I don't know what. I don't know. Maybe it's they're both playing bad. Maybe one of them's playing bad. It just doesn't feel. Something's not right. Um, and the bot lane matchup, which I know more about, that kind of sucks for FBI and Vulcan. You just lose level 1 and then never get to play the game unless
Yeah.
unless they screw up. It's really, really sad.
Yep.
And now, like, yeah, Amumu was broken. That's pretty much what I got to say about that game. Just it felt like it should have been a more competitive game.
Yeah, I think from draft wise, this is just a trend that I found with FlyQuest is Prince is never in a bad matchup. He's never in a losing situation.
Yeah.
It's both draft wise and it's both like just team wise. Like, I don't know enough details about how Spica or other players are covering for Prince's lane, but it does feel like no team can take advantage of this bot lane ever. They're always winning. So, you know, that's definitely not supposed to how that's not how it's supposed to be, right? So I think it's funny when like everyone is hyping up Prince to just be this next level player, but then they give him first pick Caitlyn, and you wonder, oh, my game went poorly. I wonder why. So I totally agree on the fact that like you give first pick Caitlyn, they get Kate Lux, right? They also still have options for like Kate and ADC champions, and then you pick Lucian Nami into it, and yeah, you're right. You can't play the game from level 1, and if Inspired ever wants to go gank there, right? They're ganking on a health deficit, or maybe Spica's there and they just lose. And that actually happened quite a bit of times. There was plenty of times where JoJo went to roam down or someone went to gank bot and Spica's just there and you don't win that. So pretty unfortunate that Evil Geniuses couldn't design a strategy to win there, because they are supposed to be one of our more competitive teams. I will say someday he started the trend and it's happening not just here, it's also happening in Europe, but Western Jaces. Oof,
Yeah.
it is not it, bro. It
He's
is
been
so
here.
not it.
He's been here long enough to he'll like still apply to the NA Jace rule because he's been here long enough. So
Yep. He's been here long enough. He's got the NAJs. I mean, if you watch LEC at all this weekend, it was also a little bit of NA Jace, a little bit of EU Jace. Like, we just can't play this champion. It's so rough. Like, if you look at Someday versus Impact, they're even in CS, and Impact takes Someday's turret first. That's not how that matchup's supposed to go.
No,
Not
no.
even remotely close, right? Like, I'm pretty sure if that happens, like, that's like game losing on its own. I think Vikla was kind of funny. He gets the most hype solo kill in mid lane. Like, he like dashes onto a bunch of minions, gets a flash W or whatever. Pretty hype. I think he proceeds to just run it down for the rest of the game. So, you know, this team's like, this team's like, you know, you can beat them. Like, Vikla will get caught running it down sometimes. I've not been hyped at all about the Aurelias we've been seeing. Palafox played Aurelia last week. It has been rough, guys. Some of these picks, I don't think we can play them. Jax, Aurelia, Jace, some other ones. It's rough, guys. It's rough out there. But you know, still pretty fun game.
Is it a Wii problem or a Vikla problem though? Because Vikla played like other people also lost on Aurelia, but like this time Vikla just looked like he was just running it. I don't really know if.
I think that's how you have to play Aurelia though.
His
like,
first play was pretty sick though, where he prepped the minion, then flash queued onto it, and then got onto JoJo. That was pretty sick. Also, that was greedy by JoJo to just kind of like, come on, man. Like,
it's
so
Aurelia.
I mean,
yeah,
it's Aurelia. So I don't know, but I do kind of want to dip into this draft because where things get funny for me is like, okay, Kate Lux, you know, it's been typical. You pick the bot lane and the jungle, and they did that on both sides. But this is where it gets interesting is when Someday blind picks Jace, because again, that's a champ you're saying, okay, you're gonna have to beat me in lane. And Cassante is still up. I have no clue why they didn't pick Cassante when they banned Jax and Gwen. Typical counters, right? I mean, obviously Fiora was still up or whatever, but it's interesting. And then I just think Impact does the right thing and just picks Sion. It's like, all right, well, you're going to pick this Jace. Like, I'm just going to play weak side and do what I do and pick Sion and be unkillable later on, which he was. It was like so frustrating to watch him just sit there and take all of the damage and literally laugh at everyone's face. Like, it was just amazing to see. So, I mean, is there anything draft-wise that you wanted to see? That to me, when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is a curveball, and I don't know if it's going to play out too well for EG, but yeah.
Sion is really OP on this patch. I think it's maybe just not picked as much, but it has been being picked a lot more. It's also a very, like, OG classic counter to Jace. I think you used to max E on Sion back in the day when it was, like, the epitome of countering Jace, but now it's just, like, you kind of just survive lane, and then, yeah, you outscale him. Because you don't max E anymore, you max Q on Sion. But also, it's like, you know, it was kind of just a checkmate from Impact. Like, they had Lucian Nami, they had the blind Jace, they had, like, Vi, right? So you pick Sion, it's like there's nothing you can pick on 5 that just can win you the draft against Sion that can also survive in Aurelia mid lane, right? So it felt like it was a bit of a checkmate. They got kind of doomed.
I don't know how NA coaches and NA teams continue to get paychecks when they're literally picking like triple AD with only Victor to take down Spica and Impact alone. Like those tabbies are getting hella value in the top side. Both top, mid, jungle were all just building tabbies. They were all able to go tanky. Like, yeah, Vikla still died, but that's mostly because he was dying 1v4, not because like he was getting boomed instantly. I don't know what the plan was. Like, Vi isn't really gonna tank bust that easily. Jace definitely isn't. And Lucian is actually pretty good late game, but not against mega tanks, right? Especially when they're itemized toward one side of the spectrum. It was the easiest game in the world for FlyQuest to itemize into, as long as they didn't get destroyed early game. And then they had Caitlyn Lux. Like, I need Lucian Nami to go die in a ditch. I don't ever want to see this shit for at least another year, you know? Like, it's cool to see Lucian until you see him every game. It's like when Udyr came back, I'm like, oh, it's cool. And then like 2 months later, I'm like, please, never again. Give me like at least a year to cool down on the Udyr hype, please.
Oh yeah. I feel the same way.
Yeah, well, this game ended up being a bigger differential. So we talked about the FlyQuest 100 Thieves only being about plus 5% on the gold spent difference. This one was a 16% gold spent difference. So it was a pretty big victory. Now, if you're an EG fan, I think the only takeaway you can have is that their early game rating is still pretty high. Even in this game, wasn't too bad, despite losing the first kill. They actually, and if you looked at it at a certain point, even though there was a Kate Lux, FBI was actually ahead in CS for a while. And that was one thing I was looking at with Prince, because I was like, okay. And even I was thinking about it as I was watching. I was like, all right, I'm going to make this my talking point. Like, Prince has Kate Lux and he's not doing anything. And then he proceeds to go like, what is it, 10-1? So I'm like, all right, never mind. He's still the beast, right? But I didn't think they dominated like, it's supposed to dominate as much. But yet they still played well. They didn't mess up. And, he's too good. If you don't put him behind or anything, he's just going to catch up. So if you're an EG fan, I think you can at least rest that they still have the best early game rating out of all. They have the highest like gold and XP at 15. They just don't know how to close games. And so they need to figure that out. Whatever it is, maybe it's macro decisions. Maybe it's a inspired decision. I don't know. But, if you're a fan, then that's something that you could still take comfort in. Any last thoughts on this match before we move on to the other EG match? Since we're kind of on EG.
Yeah, I guess like this is our last talk about FlyQuest. So
Yeah.
I think that I mean one of the ways they did end up winning this game was it was pretty even going to the mid game. Vikla had died a bunch, but then the rest of EG is kind of making or the rest of FlyQuest is making picks. It was actually another TP flanking like 5-way pincer move that kind of got FlyQuest the win in the end. It was when they had caught Scion in like FlyQuest's top jungle and he ulties away, but then Vikla is actually TPing like way back deep, and they just 3-man pincer them again, and that's just the classic FlyQuest, I guess, is that they play comps that can go in and they 3-man pincer you, and if you can't like handle it, you just lose. So yeah, pretty interesting that FlyQuest is like they're much more creative than the classic like we'll talk about 100 Thieves T Liquid, like that's just like let's just stand there as 5 people and fight. Where
Yeah.
FlyQuest is like they're a little more creative. They go in at multiple angles, right? They don't want to just run at you 5v5 because they thought a bit harder about how they're gonna play the fight. So pretty cool stuff. FlyQuest in a very even game, do a classic 3-man pincer and just get an enormous advantage from that and win. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, they're a
Cool.
good team. Yeah.
They're a good team. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about EG. Again, still one of the top teams, I think. Most of us had them pretty high in our power rankings, but they also played C9, another top ranked team. These are kind of the battle of the two consistent top teams that we, thought from last year coming into this year. And so how would they face? Well, to me, it looked like a pretty clear victory from EG. I mean, obviously they won, but as far as the gameplay, it looked pretty convincing, which is surprising because I know C9 is good, but all across the board, the game to me kind of looked one-sided. But what are your overall thoughts about EG versus C9?
Well, this was a game where Jojo got to pick something that isn't as commonly picked in NA, where he just played Tristana into Jace, and I mean NA just didn't have a chance. I mean, technically it's EU Jace, but
True.
Jace just didn't do anything once. Like, it at least didn't feel like it was that good. I think the concerning part here is that on a patch where Zeri Lulu is meta still, Berserker Zeri did not do anything. Like, did not get off the ground, right? It actually got suppressed. They were able to handle it. Fudge was the only one who had a glimmer of hope in the game. And honestly, I felt like the fight where Fudge got the triple was mostly because EG gifted it, not because Fudge played super well. Like, he just got it because EG kind of got sloppy. But the fact that Berserker, who basically solo carried that Winsome Berserker lane with Zeri last year, just like couldn't do that much into FBI Vulcan is a bad sign for future metas where like we're not going to have something hopefully as ridiculous Zeri, right, that you can use to abuse. So that's a good news for EG, and because this is a matchup we'll probably see in playoffs, it's a very good sign if FBI Vulcan can already do this. Then again, Lucian might not be meta then either, but it's good news all around for EG, even though they did have one big oopsie against Fudge in one fight.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the biggest, I'm more worried about EG after this win because if they won, that's good, but it was a fairly one-sided game. They never made a major gold swing level throw, and it still took them 40 minutes to close it out. That's not great. They needed 3 Barons to end the game, and Elder was close to spawning. Gets to Elder, everyone's close to 6 items at this point. Like, it's a winnable. It is potentially winnable, and that's where you can lose the game if Elder gets stolen if you lose that fight. So.
Yeah, I think that's a fair criticism. Like Doublelift made a point to say that sometimes it doesn't matter how long a game takes to close because sometimes it just takes that long. I did feel like in this game, the first kill didn't happen until like it was like almost like 30 minutes, right? It was like so long, and this is a very boring game to watch, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of tuned out, and I had to go back and watch like the later stuff when it was more action packed later. But yeah, it was one of those games where it's like I think this is why everyone prioritizes money these days, like either Rift Herald or turret plates, where JoJo is running around taking plates and getting gold and getting farm, and then Cloud9 stacking the first two drags, right? Well, the problem with that is you get to third drag, and then EG is just stronger. They have more gold,
Yep.
and they have more tempo on the map and everything. And then EG takes 4 dragons in a row. But, the part where time does matter is when you're clearly ahead and you haven't ended the game and Elder shows up. Yeah, and then you flip it, you could just win or lose off of that. I was honestly expecting it. I was expecting EG to have this whole giant gold buff, this Ocean Soul, and then just to lose at an Elder flip and lose the game. I was like, I hope this is not what we get to, but luckily, I guess they were able to secure it, and Cloud9 kind of got destroyed. Interesting thing to note, Alistair is for a very brief moment of time, we talked about this on our patch rundown. JoJo actually went overheal before the overheal buffs on Tristana. So solo lane overheal already coming in clutch. I don't know if it made any difference at all because like JoJo and Diplex were barely trading. But still kind of interesting to see he took it. Yeah, I don't know. It was another classic like just Cloud9 do nothing and lose sort of game. It was weird. It was a very weird game. I have a sneaking suspicion. And also, you can kind of see in their Cloud9 game versus TSM that we're probably not going to get too much into, but Cloud9 look a little mental boom from their loss against FlyQuest. Just like a tiny bit. Like, they're not playing super clean. They're kind of going for some weird plays sometimes. Against TSM day one, Berserker got a pentakill on Zeri, like, whatever, okay, that's fine. But, like, this one, it felt like they just weren't doing anything. Like, no one was doing anything, and then JoJo's just going around taking all the turrets and getting hella fed. So, pretty weird stuff. Cloud9 seems like a lot of steam is gone from their engines. I don't know what's up with them.
Yeah. Very interesting. Did you guys want to talk about anything in the draft? I mean, at least for me, the Tristana, obviously, because he blind picked it too. I mean, Jace, I guess, can flex, but I think maybe you think he's a top laner at that point. I don't know, but he did pick Tristana.
I think it's OP.
That was interesting. Yeah,
I think it's an OP mid lane that has no good counters right now. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think Tristana's top tier for sure.
Yeah. Tristana is very strong. I mean, you're playing it in bot lane. I'm sure there's some merit there. I know for a fact it is super OP in mid lane though. Yeah. And then I don't know. It's just C9 got NA Jaced. I mean, like he was so useless. He was completely irrelevant. Like I think on Jace, like you have to get ahead early because if you wait till 3 items to get to poke Jace, like it doesn't. So many tanks in the game, they can shrug it off. So, yeah, weird game.
Doesn't Tristana lose to like Akali or something? Like pre-6, obviously Akali loses, but then Akali just one-shots.
No, Akali doesn't one-shot you now. You can get MR runes. I mean, you're never at like Akali can't one-shot a lot of people unless they're a little bit chunked and they run Ignite. So Akali doesn't run Ignite in pro play, and at level 6, 7ish, you don't have enough damage to 100 to 0 combo like a full health Tristana. If they build Doran's Blade and stuff too, it makes it even harder. You can definitely do stuff like, we're talking like level 11 plus. Yeah, you can one-shot people, but...
It's a neutralizing matchup, is what it is, really. Like, after 6, because Tristana can never really jump up, because she will die, or like will get pushed out, but Tristana also... Akali can't kill Tristana, Tristana can't kill Akali, Tristana can't push because Akali will jump her. That's just
I think it's pretty Tristana favored actually, for a lot of the early stages. But
for the early stages, sure. I'm saying like 6 and past.
I still think it's probably Tristana favored at 6 past. I mean, Akali should always be chunked no matter what happens in lane. So unless like you're really running to lane and just jumping on Tristana like without hesitation.
That would be me.
That would be maybe it works. You gotta land everything.
Right.
Yeah, but it's pretty easy to outplay as Tristana early. But yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Okay. Well, again, just a pretty good win by EG there. So let's go back now to circle back to 100 Thieves. They did play Team Liquid. So let's talk about that. I know we talked a little about 100 Thieves, but we didn't get to talk about Team Liquid, who is also kind of in that top half of the rankings, but also has kind of been right in the bottom part of that top half because we don't really know what's happening there. So, what are your thoughts on this matchup with Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves?
So this matchup, where would I even start? Like, I feel that
It's a Team Liquid fan
Summit
here.
and the team just aren't on the same page, at least in this match. Like, obviously they, Giga stomped later on, but it felt like this is once again just like, what are we doing with Summit? Like, why are we picking Renekton and then like playing like this? And also, why is he playing like this on it? Besides that, I think this one was extra disappointing for me because this wasn't an enchanter game. Core was a former AD carry, and like it felt like, I think Doublelift might have mentioned it in a stream too, but it felt like Core's just arrows just weren't impactful. Like, this is a guy who was like on one of those legendary Samsung teams where they had a great map plays and stuff like that, and he was a former AD carry. Like, how do you not at least land a couple, right? And so that's bad. Double, farmed like crazy. He was like 14-0, right? But was he like 14-0 performance the whole game, or was it just toward like the mid late? I think in the mid late he was playing really well, but I think there was like room to do stuff in the early game, and like they just did not. What I've noticed from this Team Liquid roster, and we're not going to talk about the Dignos game much, but like I think that Harry and Jan, like I can see why these guys were picked up. Like I could see glimpses of like, oh, these guys aren't bad for NA rookies, right? But I don't know why they're on this team. Like they're not ready, and it doesn't look like, for some reason, the veterans don't look stable enough to make them ready. Like usually you want like someone like an Impact who can be your anchor, someone who can be your like a Photon who's like your insurance plan, and then you're like really good hands but kind of unstable players will have someone to anchor around and like grow, right? But Pioshik was like the best player in this game statistically, and I was like, okay, I'm Maokai, and then what do we do with it? Pioshik went 4-1-2. Like that's, I don't think he was like doing super well, but he didn't do bad, and he did go Radiant first, so at least I'm happy about that. I don't have much to say. I can see these guys growing, but like I was concerned about our rookies being the carries, and it's definitely like against good teams they struggle, against bad teams they're still better. So yeah, it's a little unfortunate.
Sub in Marin, please. I'm so tired of Summit running it down every game or Renekton. Why are we continuously picking him this champion when he averages 7 deaths per game or something?
Is he the new Hoonie? Is he the new Hoonie?
Bro, he's
Hoonie
worse.
actually had less deaths. Hoonie had less deaths.
Summit is his own category, man. Summit is actually he's his own category of something else.
I'm tired of him. It's genuinely tilting. I watched this draft and I almost turned off the game because I just didn't want to watch. Why it's Ashe and Varus support in the game, which already just makes it it feels pointless for me to watch. And then we have Summit on Renekton. Like, what kind of game is this?
Yeah, it's a pretty funny game. I'm not gonna lie. Dude, like watching Summit go for a demolish proc in Tenacity's face, not even to get a plate, just to get the demolish proc, and then just to run away while he's getting beat down. Like he's up like 30 like CS on Tenacity. He just gets solo killed. I was like, oh, Summit, never change, bro, never change. It's just too funny. I don't know. Like he greeds for the demolish proc and just dies, and I have no hope for him. Like he TPs to Baron and dies. I'm like, it's a classic Renekton play. 070 TP in the back line, ulti flash stun. Oh, he's dead. Yeah, it's just a comedic at this point. Um, to talk up 100 Thieves a little bit, Buzio, he died a lot, and they did die to the classic, level 3 jungler ganks the level 2 bot lane. Doublelift said in his post video, yeah, it was kind of their bad. They're playing just a little too far up. And it was also a pretty obvious gank. Like, TL was contesting the wave, level 1 versus level 2. It's like, yeah, there's a gank coming, guys. Like, it's pretty obvious. But hey, Buzio played pretty well. Like, the one play that was, I think, really hype was the Varus play. Yeah, bot lane. I mean, Core JJ is massively trolling, right? Level 5 Ashe versus level 6 Varus. He's just walking up to the bush to cancel recalls. He gets full comboed. He dies. But then Buzio's like holding the arrow. He's holding it. He's waiting. And Yun, he spell shields early. He waits for the spell shield to drop. And then Buzio nukes his ass. And then Doublelift gets the follow-up kill with the ulti. It was a pretty high bot lane fight. Gave me some chills. I was like, okay, all right. Buzio had a good game for the first time in a while, so it's cool stuff. Doublelift also, I think he played pretty well. I mean, mechanically, but his team their team at all had no idea what to do with the really fed Caitlyn. What you're supposed to do with a really fed Caitlyn is you just bring them around the map and you push every wave in, you take every tower. And they're just trading waves and not fighting and like hanging out. And I felt like, they're giving we were talking about you can't give a team too much time because eventually they could maybe randomly steal a Dragon Soul or an Elder Dragon and then they could win the game even though they're behind. Like that was close to happening 200 Thieves. They were kind of ahead most of this game, but it stalled out for so long. And yeah, that's kind of a problem. To talk about tenacity a little bit, like he got that solo kill onto Summit, and then he just turned into Summit himself. He felt a little too big. He's just walking into fights and saying, "I'm here to die. I'm here to 1v5, and I'm here to die." So he had some pretty late TPs, some pretty poor TPs. He was kind of just useless in team fights, but tenacity has a lot to work on. Turned it around the next day on the Fiora a little bit, but it was God, it was just a comedic game. I was laughing a lot. There was also the Gale Force one shot. That was funny. Like Doublelift, you just
Oh
Gale
yeah, that was
Forces
nice. Yeah.
headshots Yeon and he's just dead from full. That's like okay.
That was at the end, right? That was so
the
funny.
very end. This is just a comedic game. Core JJ is just actually just he's just trolling, man. He can't land an arrow.
Do we need to ask the question, about Core? Like I did see it on Twitter. Disgruntled TL fans kind of now trying to pull the plug on Core, saying like, forget just enchanters. This guy is maybe washed up. Is it too early?
Play Nautilus, bro. Every other region's playing Nautilus. Like we saw so much Nautilus this weekend. If you watch LEC, it's just Nautilus left and right. Like why aren't they just throwing out the Nautilus? Like it reminds me of like way back in the day when ADCs, it was like 8.11 patch, right? ADCs got changed. Their crit damage got lowered and blah, 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 blah. So everybody's playing mages bot lane, right? And Reckless is like, I can't play it, guys. I got to play support. We're just going to play double enchanter bot lanes only. And then you see like Uzi and other people playing ADCs elsewhere in the world. Still, ADCs aren't dead.
Yeah.
Reckless is like, I can't play him though. This feels like Core GJ to me. It's like, no, we got to play enchanters. We got to play Ashe bot lane. But it's like, you can still play Nautilus, dude. Like, you're good at Nautilus. Just play the engage support because you're an NA. You're good at these champions. Your team looks completely useless without you on the engage support. Just play it. So, I don't know. I'm pretty disappointed that he decided to play Ashe and it looked like garbage.
It reminds me of like when, like I'm climbing and there's a champ, when you have that champ that you could just play without even looking. You just know that's probably the best champ you can carry on. But it just gets kind of boring after a while. And you're like, oh, but the strong champs are these. And these are the meta champs. Yeah. And yeah, they might not be so hard to play, but it's not like my best champ. But you're just like, I'm bored of playing my best champ. I want to play these fun and exciting new toys. And I feel like Core.
Champ.
Yeah, Core. I feel like that's Core. He's like, but this is the OP fun champ. I'm gonna play the Halo Blades Ashe. That's what everybody's playing, and it's just not working for him.
He's just not very good at it.
It's my turn to coin flip games off of Ashe Arrow.
Yes.
Yeah, do we win level 1 trade? All right, we win the game. Hell yeah. Oh, we lost it. Uh-oh. Ashe is getting pushed in every game. Oh, I'm kind of useless now. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. I'll say for Core, like, objectively, like, he's just not playing well, right? Like, he's not worth his, like, name brand value. It's kind of like when we were watching some of Bjerg's bad games. Like, it just isn't adding up, right? But at the same time, like, it is also true, like, we haven't seen him on his good characters yet. So you don't want to be the team that's like, I'm benching Core, and then like the meta changes, you're like, well, shit, like what are we doing? Like we're doing everything wrong. I think that, but I won't blame the coaching staff for this one. I think Core is making the decision. Like it's been enough games where like I think he wants to prove something. He wants to prove that he is world class at everything, not just like his characters. And like it just keeps missing the mark, and that's just it's depressing to watch. Like some of these characters like aren't hard to play. I will say Ashe support, like once you fall behind, it is hard to play, but like. He's just you can be the best in the world and not have to play everything, guys. Like Zeka was the best in the world at mid for like that one tournament, and that was enough to win worlds. Like do what you're good at. Like do
play what you're good at,
please. Because like at some point he might pick Nautilus, Leon, or whatever, and be bad at it because he just hasn't played it in like 6 months of pro play. Like he's played it like once or twice in the last like 6 months. Like it's kind of. It will be concerning, but once again, hopium copium. Hopefully, the meta will change. We have one more patch to go, and
right.
I wish these patches came earlier because I'm a little sad. We're already halfway through the split. Or
Hasn't
not?
been a great time yet for Team Liquid fans yet.
No, no. I mean, it doesn't help either that like nobody on this team is stable. There's nobody on this team that
Mhm.
just plays consistently well every game.
Yeah.
Like I mean, even Pioshik, right? He probably played the best for Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves, yet he's on Maokai. You can't carry on Maokai. Not in pro play. Like you just run in and CC people and die, or run in CC people and your team runs over them. Like Maokai doesn't get to have a lot of skill expression. I think it's also even doubly worse, right? Where it's like you're playing against a team that has a ton of damage, and you're playing Maokai and you take all the kills. And like you have all these kills, you have nothing to do with it, no money to spend on damage, and it's rough. Like there's other games that I've seen that have been lost simply because their Maokai or Sejuani takes the kill, and all their gold lead is on their Maokai and Sejuani, and it just goes into the ether. It doesn't mean anything. So you know, it's rough times for junglers these days. Um, I just want to
Yeah.
say that it was in this game, but it's in every League of Legends game. There gets to a certain point where there's Maokai and Sejuani. They have all their camps up, all on the top side, yet all they're doing is just sitting in the river or in the jungle in bot lane, just hovering
Just
around
waiting.
their ADCs,
Yeah.
just waiting for something to happen. Because it's like, why farm? I just need to defend my bot. It's so frustrating, dude. We got to change this meta. It is tilting for junglers to watch.
Okay, so real quickly, I guess the only silver lining I would say about Summit is that his laning is still top notch. When you don't take the fact he just gets ganked and dies.
Bro,
If you're just looking,
you can't say someone's laning top notch if they're dying to every gank.
yes, but hear me out. Hear me out. Is all I'm saying is that when it comes to consistency, he is CSing better than his opponents. He's getting gold leads more than his opponents and XP leads around his opponents. Now, I agree with Alistair. That's not the complete picture, and you're not helping your team by dying. And that's what's frustrating, is because if you're if you're Team Liquid and you're like, we have this top-notch like laner in a vacuum, if we could just get him to not be so brain dead sometimes, like that is something to work around. You talk about consistency, he could be consistent. He just either needs to have Pioshik like protect him, or like have Summit just be smarter and ward and play around that. But I think if anything, if you're a Team Liquid fan, that's what I would want the resources to go to, because it is pretty sad when you look at anything else.
He did. He released a little video. He said he was not gonna int anymore.
Oh,
sorry, Team Liquid fans. I won't int anymore.
Okay, well, we'll see.
That. It was
All
pretty
right.
funny.
It
Was this
funny.
after? Was this after the games this
After
past
the
week? Okay,
games,
This was
yeah.
after.
so we'll have to
yes.
see. We'll have to
So,
see.
You know.
I mean, he
Alright.
might still end, but I appreciate that he at least takes it. Okay,
Yeah.
He either's doing it as a joke or he's actually serious. But either way, I appreciate that he's trying to connect with the fans. Because I was like, okay, that's kind of funny.
Right,
If he int
right.
next week though, I'm still mad at you.
No,
Yeah.
hey,
Also-
if tomorrow if he ints it, I'm gonna quote that video. I'm gonna send it right to him.
Tag him on
I
Twitter.
will say,
What'd you
Pioshik's
say?
not at fault. Pioshik's not at fault for a lot.
Right.
He's like, Summit will dodge a gank like really well. Like he'll barely live off a gank. Then he'll just walk back up and die.
Oh,
Like he's
yeah, that's the
actually
classic.
like
Yeah.
like imagine you as a jungle. You're like, you good? And he's like, yeah, I'm good. I survived. Like, nice.
Yeah.
5 seconds later, oh, I died.
Just kidding.
Hey, man, it's like 3 CS. You can
Yeah.
you can just sack it, man.
Right.
Sometimes it's not even 3 CS. Sometimes it's just to get the back trade, the walk off trade, right? They just
Summit
like
needs to
they hit
pay for
me.
coaching from Impact.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, funny thing actually about 100 Thieves in this game is Tenacity, he's on Jax, right? And there's this moment, Doublelift says this in his video, where Tenacity is saying in comms, like, guys, I'm fine, I'm totally okay. And he's getting like 5-man like murdered by Team Liquid. And he's like, and Doublelift's just like, yeah, you're fine, bro? Are you sure? Because you look pretty dead. It's, I think it's just top lane brain sometimes. I don't know, man. You get stuck on an
abused
island.
so much, you just get used to it.
Yeah. You're
is
stuck on
true.
an island, you get island fever, things don't seem how they're supposed to. I don't know. It's pretty funny.
All right.
yeah.
Well, we talked about the top half. Now let's just kind of give maybe not so much time, because I know it always gets depressing talking about the bottom half. But if there's anything that you wanted to point out, I'll just give some brief possible wave tops here. Golden Guardians won both their games. CLG is looking pretty crappy, like what's going on there. So even though Golden Guardians is tied for 2 and 4, the way they're playing and the way their gameplay actually looks, I think they could push past like even CLG and TSM and maybe be right under Team Liquid. So positive signs for that. But is there anything as far as the bottom half of the list goes? Is there anything you wanted to spotlight or mention?
Yeah, I mean, you already pointed to it. We pointed to it on the podcast last week. Like, Golden Guardians is not a real 0-4 team. They just played against 4 really hard matchups. They played not that different from the games they played against the top teams, too. Like, they show, like, a semblance of skill there. I mean, Licorice is still not super great, but, like, he's against worse teams. Like, he's still not the worst, right? He's not, like, unusable. They completely destroyed CLG. Like, that game at CLG was one of the biggest shutdowns of, like CLG got 3 kills against 22 guys. Like, it was a murder. And the funny thing is, it wasn't that different from their typical game. You have to remember 2 things. So Golden Guardians has been playing at a higher level the whole time. These just had bad matchups. But 2, Gory was only here until like week 2, and week 2 was when his first week in NA. So like he like completely destroyed Palfox on the Talia, I think it was. And I think that they are already past CLG in terms of power level right now. Obviously, they won the head-to-head, but just in general. So they're going to be like a mid-level team. And I think that I said before the podcast, CLG is they're the gatekeeper team. They're like if you can't beat us, you're just bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see IMT and Golden Guardians get some wins, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
He said, I guess.
I'm pretty salty that CLG is kind of running it now.
Mm-hmm.
They went 0-2, and it's definitely winnable games. I mean, apparently Golden Guardians is a lot better than them. I didn't think they were, but clearly they are. Losing to IMT though, I think. Or that was last week. That was last week. My bad.
Yeah, last week they lost to IMT. This week they lost to TSM and Golden Guardians.
Those are kind of understandable. I mean, I think those are the 2 teams that are going to make it into playoffs. I don't think IMT and Dignitas make it, but we're still a few weeks out.
Yeah, CLG. I also said this before the podcast. I'll say it again. They're looking pretty low elo.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean to say is like
you did say that.
like you have a Vi ulti on you, and then you flash with it on you, and then you still die. Like that's the kind of low elo stuff I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like okay, you get hit by some skill shots or you get outplayed in lane a little bit. Like low elo, like mistakes. Like you just do stuff that's like never gonna work in a million years. Like flashing with an auto in the air and then you're dead. Flashing with Vi ulti already on you. Like just I don't know, just going in for no reason and whiffing everything and then die. Like CLG just looks like they're not even the same 5 players at all. Like it's got to be that they're not trying or they don't care right now because they're just taking it easy at spring split because like none of the mechanics that were showed by the CLG players is like what I know them as. Like holy cow, it is so bad to watch this team play. I don't know, like in the game versus Golden Guardians, Poom is just sitting in a bush taking it. Like he's just sitting in a bush, level 2, and then Karma just walks up with an empowered mantra Q and just blows him up. And then he tanks every single skill shot from Stixay. And it's like, I don't know what you expected. That's just some low elo shit right there. That is real rough. I mean, same thing with the TSM game, right? It felt like Luger and Contracts and everyone, they just got hit by every Scion Q and every Elise Cocoon. There's no dodging. There's no outplaying anything. They're just getting hit by every skill shot. So pretty rough stuff for CLG. Golden Guardians, though, I mean, yeah, they're interesting. Gory's kind of hype. Gory's kind of good at the game, actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
agree.
like River and Gory, they can maybe do some stuff to do a run in playoffs. I think they're still going to be held back by Stixay and Licorice. They are kind of not very good. But I think it's funny, actually. If Golden Guardians wanted to, they could have gotten 3 Radiant Virtues. So they get Radiant Virtue on Renekton top, which I actually think is pretty damn good. If you're not like, 1v9ing, you might as well just get Radiant Virtue, right? What is Gore Drinker really going to do for you? And then they got Radiant Virtue on the jungler, as usual. And they had Karma in the bot lane. If they wanted to, he could have gotten Radiant Virtue also. They could have had 3 of the most OP items on the same team for the funds. I think they still would have won. It would have made any difference at all. I mean, it's probably not optimal, but it would have been really funny to win with 3 Radiant Virtues. And I mean, this item is just so crazy, right? In LEC, Broken Blade's building out on Olaf, right? In solo queue, you're seeing Hecarims build Radiant Virtue. You're seeing everybody build this goddamn item, even after it gets nerfed. you can talk about you can listen about the nerfs in our patch rundown.
Yeah. Good
But
plug.
man, thank you, no problem. This item is crazy, guys. This
Yeah.
item is so funny, and build more of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, CLG sucks. Golden Guardians on the up and up. Kind of hype. Kind of interesting.
Nice. Okay. Cool. Well, that wraps up the list. Anything meta-wise? So let me just point out a few things, and we can talk about if you wanted to talk anything meta. I will say Jace has an 87.5% presence.
Oh yeah.
If I'm teams, I just let that thing go through because it is proven not to be that great. Elise has had 100% presence, and the one game it was let through did win. So again, still seeing a lot of Sejuani, Caitlyn, and Maokai. But any thoughts on meta as far as what you saw? I know things are going to be changing, but anything you wanted to mention as far as the meta goes?
My thoughts on meta, just because so many things are changing, is that Cassante does have counterplay, but like it really just depends on how used you are with the character. I mentioned it before, like Cassante is kind of like old Singe or old like these solo kill lanes where like if you don't know how it works that well, you're just gonna get solo killed, and it's annoying to see how little like what are NA pros practicing against. Besides that, I'm really excited to see the top 3 enchanters just fall out and some of the AD carry supports fall out. Like there's going to be a lot of fallout about 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now when they actually, all the support changes happen. But for now, it's going to suck. I think the worst part is that these changes will happen and we'll be already more than halfway done with the split. And so it's annoying, but the meta is what it is, right? We've seen it for so long and there's only been some variation in it.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I don't need to reiterate my feelings on the bot lane meta. I'm tired of Lucian Nami, and I hate the support meta in general. But aside from that, like, I'm definitely excited for when we get more engaged supports, see more variety in the bot lane, and an easier way to punish this stupid meta.
Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot wait to not have Sejuani Maokai every goddamn game, because like it's literally every game, guys. Everybody trades Sejuani Maokai because Elise gets banned, and then you just pick Sejuani Maokai. It's so boring, guys. It's so terrible. They need to change jungle. There's a couple jungle changes that are happening in 13.3. There's some more jungle changes happening potentially later on. I think it got patch previewed in 13.4. But that's until all that stuff happens in pro play, expect more Sejuani Maokai trades for the next like 3 or 4 weeks. It's just gonna be trading back and forth. You want Maokai? All right, I'll take Sejuani. Okay, you want Sejuani? I guess I have to take Maokai. I hope, for God's sake, that 13.3 comes in and we see some J4, right? Maybe we see some, I don't know, Lee Sin, right? We need more Kindred players, right? Kindred's supposed to be broken, and we even have a world champion Kindred player, and he doesn't pick it. When it's up, he fucking picks Maokai. So, I'm pissed.
I'm not picking Kindred either if my top laner is averaging 7 deaths.
I don't care. I don't want Maokai anymore. I don't want Sejuani.
Yeah.
Radiant Virtue is such a cool item, but it's terrible. I hate it now. I used to love this item when it was niche, but now everybody picks it all the time, and I hate the item. It's a goddamn travesty. Any other meta thoughts? I don't know.
What about
hey,
Alistair, what about Heimer? He's not there anymore. Aren't you happy about that?
I didn't even notice, honestly.
Because of that, because of the Ashe support and the Varus support and the Kalista support. It doesn't matter.
It's just like it's so much BS that I just don't.
You just replace one with another like annoying thing, right? Okay. I got you.
Yeah, Heimerdinger is just it's kind of crazy. Like as soon as people figured out like this whole ranged bot lane meta, Heimerdinger does not have a place because his turrets just disappear, right? And then you're also like enchanters are kind of falling out, right? You don't really want to play Lulu if you're playing against an ADC because you will lose that early push. So Heimerdinger also just doesn't have a place as much. It's such a weird ass meta. Weird world we live in.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got here.
Yeah, I actually stopped playing rank for a little bit because I can't figure it out. Like I don't want to. I typically play enchanters, but with all the ADC bot support things. You're right. I've been facing a lot of difficulties. I've been trying, some of the engages now with the new patch live with Nautilus. Nautilus does feel good. But yeah, I think it's just strange right now.
Yo, you should try out Rakan, man. His win rate went up a lot, and his heal is bonkers.
Yeah,
large.
I did notice that.
Dude,
yeah,
it is
I have
massive.
to try that.
Rakan's not bad, and I mean LeBlanc. I don't know. I can just kill the ADC. So
you would say LeBlanc, of course. That's cool.
Like I don't know. I play against a lot of Ashe supports, especially in like gold and stuff. And like I just play LeBlanc. I electrocute. They just disappear.
Yeah,
they're gone. So I don't know.
I agree. Okay.
Someone should pull it out. Pull it on pro play. Give me that LeBlanc support, baby.
Let's see it, man. That would be great. Maybe Buzio. Maybe Buzio will be bold enough. Pick something. We'll see.
Maybe. It would be Buzio.
It would, yeah.
For being honest though, Doublelift is gonna be like, oh, all right, we didn't win.
Yeah.
All right, never again. You're
never
in
again.
Support jail.
You're not allowed.
Lulu. Never again, buddy. Lulu or Nautilus, your choice.
I'm excited for Rakan. I love Rakan.
Yeah, Rakan's cool.
Yeah, I will say that for once, pro play did to go back to what Mitchell was saying, pro play did actually adjust quickly. Like Heimer came into meta, and they picked something to break it. I think we'd be more excited about how proactive they were to counter the meta with a new meta if it was interesting, and if it wasn't just abusing AD carries, Hail, and Umbral.
Yeah, it was interesting for 2 days. It was oh shit, Callista support. Caitlyn support, Jin, oh my god, look at Keria, kill everybody, and then everyone's like, oh no, I kind of hate it. Oh god, it's terrible.
It's awful.
All right. Well, is there any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap things up?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He said, oh yeah.
Doublelift was saying that TL was scrimgods or something. And
right.
Sure, and then that's after he beat them, and I was like, oh, interesting. And then today on the dive, the first minute is Sensei dude, TL's free in scrims, we farm him, and so I'm like, is Double just saying things with just because he has lost in scrims and that's why he thinks they're scrimgods, or does he have any basis on this? Because a scrimgod doesn't mean they beat us. Scrimgod means they beat a lot of people and people are scared of them. So, or maybe Double's just bigging up their win. I don't know. I just thought it was a very big gap between their scrimgods and we farmed them. So,
wait, who said that on the dive?
Zen. So
Zen,
in the dive, which was came out an hour before we recorded, Zen takes the place of Kobe. So he's just there for the whole podcast. It's been a really excellent listening so far. So
nice.
Yeah, he's just no, TL's free. So I was like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting because I thought I was like, oh yeah, TL Scrimgods, cool. And then only a couple days later, Zen's like, what? No, not at all.
I do remember there being lots of rumors in the preseason before LCS actually started that TL was dumpstering everybody in scrims. So maybe Doublelift was just remembering from back then, but then now that the season started, Sven's they're garbage now or something. So maybe that's the disconnect. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I was gonna say also some stuff about Doublelift is, oh my god, he's kind of back, isn't he? He's kind of back a little bit, right?
Hells yeah.
If you think about when Bjergsen came back to LCS, it didn't look like this. Doublelift still's got a lot to work on. He's still making a lot of mistakes, but it did not look like this. Doublelift is kind of good at the game still. Jesus Christ. I also got to say, LCS has sorely missed Doublelift because even when he's been gone for 2 years, he is by far the most compelling and interesting narrative that LCS has ever had. Holy cow, he's only been here for a couple of weeks, and the Doublelift Prince narrative is honestly the coolest thing ever. I didn't really mention it back then, but I'm mentioning it now. They traded jerseys. It was super wholesome, right? Prince is you're the GOAT. Doublelift's holy shit, you were in diapers when I was playing. This is nuts. And and then you go back, Prince goes to stream, right? He's wearing Doublelift's jersey and he's watching all of Doublelift's old plays and losing his mind. You guys gotta check out the clips. Find Prince's stream and watch them. They're so funny. It's super old clips of 2012 Doublelift Vayne. And Prince is just losing his mind. He has this really funny phone call where he picks up the phone and his manager is like, can you put on a FlyQuest jersey? And Prince is like, nah, dude.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm gonna wear my Doublelift jersey. Yeah. So pretty sick stuff. I don't know. Berserkers, he's got some work to do, right? C9's got some work to do because, dude, Doublelift might not be the best ADC, but he is such a fan favorite. His post game videos too of him reviewing his stuff. it has breathed new life into LCS. Okay,
Sure has, yeah.
like production changes be damned, time changes be like whatever, pay cuts be gone. Like we just need a Doublelift to come back because
Yeah.
I've never seen like the community actually be so invested in LCS. That's not just straight shitting on it.
Yeah.
We actually have stuff to be excited about. And guess what? I guess it was just always Doublelift.
Yeah,
Always has been, always
I'll
will
give
be.
I'll give credit to the fact that they have brought in a lot more pros, like Sven being on the dive, for instance, or even
That's
being
true.
on the the cast. Inspired being on the cast. Just the fact that we're getting more pro insight has really been a breath of fresh air. And so I don't mind that there are these newer casters and personalities that maybe I'm not really feeling, but the fact that we have pro insights keeps me interested in the game because it talks about things that I otherwise wouldn't have known because I get a different point of view. So I'm really excited about that. And the thing about Doublelift is just so polarizing because last week we were talking about that whole drama with the Tigress and how people were kind of like, whoa, Double, you're like, why are you doing this? And then here you go, he's now becoming one of the, favorites again because it's such a wholesome clip, him and Prince. And so you're right in the sense that his personality, it definitely has made it a lot more interesting to see.
He's the main character of the LCS,
Yeah.
good or bad, villain or hero.
Yeah.
This guy is the main fucking character of LCS.
Yeah.
And the last 2 years that he hasn't been here, they really have not been the same. Like it's just so obvious and clear these last few weeks that like, oh yeah, LCS is kind of back, guys. It just hasn't been the same since.
Yeah.
Really needed for him to be here, or else like Prince and Berserker wouldn't have a measuring stick. It's like you never competed against the NA goat, like so whatever, right? Like the AD carry goat, it's just not going to be here for you to measure up against. I will say, like, I mean, what is Double supposed to do? He just got giga clapped in a game, and his fan of like since the kid was like a little baby, not literally, but like a small child, wanted to get stuff with him. Of course, Double's gonna say like, yeah, I mean, you're the better AD carry. How could he's not Nemesis? He's not gonna get schooled and say I'm better afterward.
Yeah.
That'd be so stupid, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'll say is LCS viewership is up a little bit. Someone made a post about LEC LCS viewership. LEC is up as well because they have a good format. LCS is slightly up, and then the average might be higher when the playoffs come up. So that's good news, considering we have a new time, a worse time, at least day-wise, and a lot of people didn't even know when it was going on.
Yeah.
Also, we don't have the LS hype train.
I also think
Double.
like purely just not being on the same day as LEC helps LCS so much. Even if the time is awkward and stuff, I think it's just not being on the same day as LEC and having Doublelift back and everything is like really just that's just enough, right? Production changes, I mean, sure, they're kind of interesting, but like if Doublelift wasn't here and they made all these production changes, I don't know how popular it would be.
I think the final step really is just format change. You give us a format like LEC with all the pros coming in and giving insight, Doublelift being a personality. Like even if Doublelift does end up retiring, well, he will end up retiring again, but if he somehow is still able to be in the LCS in some capacity, I think that would be a super smart move for them. But I think that's just the final piece is change the format. And now it'll be even more hype, and it'll be a really good product. So I'm through all the drama, I think we're on a good trajectory, and things have kind of fallen in pretty well. And I'm just hoping that they take that last final step. But
I'm hoping that they say, you know what? I know we announced all this stuff, blah 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 blah. Let's just change the format for next split.
Heck yeah!
I would love it if LCS just said, hey, you know what? I know we planned out the whole year how we wanted to times everything, but they changed the time of when LCS started at the last minute. They can change. Maybe they change the format. They talk to all the LCS teams. They say, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then next split, we get something a bit more interesting than just double round robin best of ones into.
I mean, they have time.
Playoffs,
They have time during MSI. That there's a time for them to actually like tweak it and maybe
just
come up
change
with
it.
something.
YOLO, let's do it. And you know what? When that happens too, we can just change worlds, right? I don't want to go to have this awesome double 2 international teams for MSI, and then we go to Worlds in the exact same fucking format. Let's just change it both right now. Why not, right? We don't have to wait around to experiment and see how the changes feel. Experiment now so that we can make changes faster and sooner and better for next year.
I bet you if viewership for MSI is really good, then they'll change it. I think they will. I think they will.
Please.
But
it's a
pipe dream.
50-50
It's a pipe
Riot,
dream.
man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50. You're right.
Because
So
the problem is when they change things, it's essentially the guy who's in charge of admitting I was stupid or I was wrong, right? And they don't want to do that. So they're super stubborn.
You know, I will respect you so much more if they do
I mean,
that.
I will too, but these
no
guys
one,
have egos. We've
no
been,
one
it's been 10
genuinely.
years with shit formats.
Yeah, they have egos, but we just genuinely don't care about your ego.
This
Just
is
give me
League
good
of
games.
Legends. Everybody has egos. The gold player, the silver, bronze player, they all have egos. Doesn't matter who you are.
Bronze formats, but they still have ego.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
We're the best podcast, guys.
We're the best podcast. Yeah. All right. All right. Well, let's end on that note so that people remember that. Just kidding. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks again to my awesome friends and co-hosts, Kevin, Mitchell, Alistair, sharing their super wise thoughts. But until next time, enjoy your climb on the rift. Try not to be too toxic. And we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.